Going there. Got the record started. We'll have to.
Okay, hello, everybody.
Hello, the no people that are here just yet.
The no people that are here just yet. Hello, no one.
Yeah, we gotta. Well, that was one of the things I was watching today on. I was watching Fritz. Like, he has the stream start about like 5 minutes ahead of time, and it pops up with the chat window, and it's got music going, and then once it's over, like it's clearly seems like he clicks a button, and it switches right over, audio and everything. So I'm wondering how he's doing all that. I would love to see him do a recording of how to set up all that stuff.
Right? It feels like he's almost got an engineer there with him. It's so tight.
Yeah, I think I do believe that the situation is he's actually got multiple computers, and so like one computer is like purely the streaming station, and then the others are like his machine that he's using to work on, and the one that he's using to monitor Twitch with. Whereas I'm trying to do it all on one, so it makes it a little bit more difficult, and everything's doing all of it. So I've been trying to figure out how to make that possible. Just don't know what that's going to be just yet. We'll have to see. Yeah. So we were doing this. We're doing this save. That's
right.
what we ended with. So we did it for basically the miner, which, just to go over the save portion of the stuff here, we have we have basically these three things that we're saving. I don't remember what this is though.
What's that?
This mode.
It's basically the room you're in. Really, it's like the scene.
Oh, okay.
So that might even be deprecated with the way we have the scene stacked. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. But either way, so we really have this. We have the store and we have the miner, because the miner really maintains all of the stuff that the user has. It maintains right. The diggers, the chips, their inventory. Right.
So, yeah, right.
Yeah. So, to complete, well, let's finish work. Let's continue working on that one, on the miner one, and we'll come back and look and see if we can get to the state. Okay. So I have to tell you, part of something I'd like to look into doing in an upcoming stream soon is actually trying to move some of these data items over to some resource files, because I'd really like to be able to start, because that's going to allow us to really start to build out the game, to figure out that gameplay. And then we could figure out that's when we can start to figure out what new stuff we would need to add into the game to be able to extend it to make it more enjoyable as we go.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the actual process, I don't know how thrilling that'll be to watch, but yeah, we need to get there, because you're right, we'll be able to add stuff in a lot more easily than having to basically write it in code. Like, that's what we have to do right now, and that's what John's getting to, is we really have to code up every new thing that we drop in, as opposed to being able to just kind of set these resources and boom, there's a new thing that can go into the game. It's a little more complicated than that, but that's the crux of it.
Yeah, trying to get it more data-driven than having to go through code to do it. Well, we've gotten everything. The key is that we've actually gotten to the point where everything is data-driven. We just want to make it so that it's easier to add the data into the process to add it to the game.
Right.
So I want to go through here, and on this one, we're going to go through and we're going to eliminate these sets. See what happens.
Now, this is to make these immutable, so that you can't mess with the data that's stored in here from other places within the game.
Yeah. Like, it should always be a goal when working with objects and properties, is to try to make it so that the portion of the set is not something that has to happen from an external source. Ideally, you want to have methods that tell it how to do those things. All right, so I removed these privates altogether. Actually, what I should have done was make these private.
Right, so that we can set them from within on the constructor or from a function as well.
Yeah, constructors it'll work fine. It's just the other methods won't have access to it.
Right. So this will allow us to set these values via a method from within the class here, as opposed to being able to just access a property willy-nilly from wherever. Because the get allows you to pull that piece of data out and work with it, and the set is what allows you to push stuff in. So we're kind of trying to control being able to do that.
Yeah, because like a good example, what made me realize it as we were working on it. Something along the lines of like singletons. The goal here with this durability, so the durability was showing up as not able to be set, and that's when I realized that I had mixed up the process there.
Oh, Mr. Sharp is here. Singletons, he says.
Super advanced. All right, now we're gonna try to build it and see what all the errors that we created. Hey, well, that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Oh, look, most of them are tests.
That's even better. So really just those two up top.
Yeah. What was this?
Okay, is this the repair maybe?
This is the repair. Oh, well, this is a great example, right? So here is where we would want to tell the digger that we want it to repair itself, right? And then that will actually control what that means on the inside. Because what we've done is we've taken that rule and we brought it out here. And we brought the rule here, and that really isn't what we want to have done. Because what if we want to change how repair works on a digger? We would now have to change it in this place and then in places that also do that repair type of methodology.
Right, and we could potentially forget that we have this little piece of code here that interacts with that property. So somewhere way down the line, we're like, where is this value coming from? You know what I mean? So that's another reason why we're going to pull it out of here as well. So it's kind of fun.
Can't be too super, Jim. I know, Jim. It's funny because there's times where we want to go a certain route, and then we're like, that might be a little bit too advanced. Let's like try to step it back a little bit, and then we're like, it's like, well, now we're getting to stuff where we need it to be more advanced because we're actually getting to more advanced concepts in the game itself.
Yeah, because you can't do everything simply. That's just part of the thing. But we're open to suggestions.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So now I've basically taken that logic that we had, or the process that was happening outside, and brought it into the digger itself. So now we'll get back to the repair.
Now we just tell it to repair.
Yeah. This is something that we'll probably end up exploring at some point, because this way of doing the cost seems like we should be able to pull that down into something else. I don't know what the answer is to it yet.
Yeah. Now, what about all those digger dot update lifetime stats? Should that actually be in that repair function now? Because they're stat manipulations.
You know what? I think the hard part is the bolt cost and token cost.
Mm-hmm. Well, can you pass? You can pass it into the repair. It makes sense for it to be there anyway.
How do we figure out what the repair?
It gets rolled. It just gets rolled.
Well, I know it gets rolled, right? But I'm
like where?
Yeah. Whoa. Oh, it gets rolled on the way in.
Yeah, well, that was another. Remember, there's that bug in the game that allows you to.
Yeah, keep trying.
Yeah, you just keep. So there's a bug in the game. For those of you that don't know, that if you don't like the price of the repair that it gives you, you can just try again until you get one that you like. Because we don't persist it anywhere. Just roll it out.
Yeah. I'm wondering if. Yeah, I think maybe what we should do. So Well, let's fix these other things first. We'll come back to this because I have this idea about it, right? So, just as a quick highlight of what I'm thinking is that like this definitely should move in there, and I think that's right. I think what we want to maybe do is have the digger itself
Mm-hmm.
when it breaks down, it does the roll then what it's going to take to repair it.
At the point when it breaks down.
Yeah.
Mm.
So then we'll know. Then the digger will be aware of what's needed to fix it, and then we can say when we do the repair, it's actually going to know what that is.
Okay. Okay, and that'll persist it in there too.
Correct.
Like it'll just be, so we won't have to roll it. Okay, yeah, let's do that. I'm down with that.
Okay. Well, let's leave this here for the moment. Let's go and fix this hopper one. Then we should probably see if this game still works. See if we can load up the game.
Right.
All right, I gotta close these. This is
Make it a little bigger.
yeah, with the size of the font, it's harder to see. So this is the digger upgrader.
Okay, so now we're setting that hopper.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So that is okay because we can make this where we can call it upgrade hopper, right?
Hmm.
So we can have an upgrade hopper. And in this case, we would then pass in this hopper upgrade item.
Mm-hmm. Right. So instead of setting it like just pointing right at that property, we'll just upgrade the hopper there.
Yeah, I see this as doing two things. One, it tells us very specifically what we're actually doing, right? Because just setting it to that item doesn't really indicate that we're actually upgrading it. Like this here, we're now saying the message we're sending to the digger is we want you to upgrade. And so as the person that's reading it, you know what this is going to do very specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So let me create this method using
Code Rush. Right?
Yeah, Code Rush. I was like, wait a minute, what is it? I was about to say Code Complete, and I was like, that's a book. It's not the same thing.
Sorry, buddy, I got you back.
I appreciate that. How about this? We'll just do this as grade, and then I'll do one of the rename on it. Which it's neat. Like this renaming, even though it's going through the you see the Visual Studio pop up here. It actually does use Code Rush to do the advanced portion of it, which is nice. Like so, it knows how to pick which ones. How to pick which items throughout the code base. All right, so let me go to these tests and see what we're doing here. I see what we were trying to do here. Basically, trying to build a default one. Well, let's do this.
Yeah, well, that's what with the standard digger thing. That's what that's about.
So the standard digger was just I think, a nice clean spot. So what we can do is let's take this state piece here,
mm-hmm.
and we'll just bring that over to the test.
Like whole.
Yeah. So what I was going to do is I was just going to put a constructor in here, and we'll set up standard. Make that equal to that. So we'll bring that in.
Right. So this is going to allow us to basically create this standard digger right here in this test class, as opposed to having to call it.
Right.
So.
Oh, that's the other part of this too, right? So I guess it doesn't really matter because you did. What was your default?
I don't remember, John.
I'm gonna just do firm, I guess.
Oh, you know what? It gets rolled, is what it is. There's a mine site like factory
Well, this one was just newing it up.
Yeah, but I think it's still. I don't know. Wherever that was coming from in the actual like production piece.
Yeah, we'll take a look. Oh, we don't have the generics. We brought them in.
Right, because that was like part of the random like portion of it, like what makes like kind of like a good digger versus like a not so great digger, had to do with the mine site that it lands on.
Yeah, so in here, the constructor for this just creates it with a default value, which I guess would be whatever's at the top of the list for the enumerators. So now here the difference is we're going to take the state, we'll make that equal to, actually no, I just want to change this. And then now we can do, nope. All right, so
Okay.
now basically we're doing the same thing, except we're now putting it in a different spot, right? So now I can do, we can make the mine site equal to mine site. Oh, we gotta make it equal to the mine site state. You know what though? I think we can do mine site dot get.
What are you trying to get at?
I was trying to pull this into the mine site, but this is actually mine site state. Mine site doesn't have a. Well, because we did it right on the. I'm just going to do it on here.
Why did we do that like that?
It was because it was so small. I didn't think about it when I put it into the. So I felt like, oh, we don't need to do this here. It's 2 items. It's not that big of a deal. But I think I'd rather do it this way.
Okay.
I'd rather add it on to here like everything else.
Yeah, because it looks weird, right? It's like inconsistent.
Yeah. Yeah. So now, oh, this is just hardness. That keeps messing me up. I gotta be careful with that. Right. So now I can do the get state here. You know what? I could have just done this as a mine site state.
Oh, there you go. You don't have to do any of that, right?
Yeah.
Just push it in that way.
And then this goes from state. And then no. Sorry. Forgot what I was trying to do here. I'm looking at this and I'm feeling like there's something else we may want to do with this code, right? So I feel like this name isn't right because this is just a digger state. So I'm going to rename this to digger state
instead of standard digger state.
Yeah, it is initially, but it's.
Yeah, but it's not really. It doesn't have to be.
And so.
All right.
So then this here is kind of going to be the same thing. So I'm just going to copy that.
It was the same, I think, previously. So.
Right. And this is normal. Okay. And then this does the same thing.
Mm-hmm. These are all just checking to make sure that you land in the ranges.
Is that what that's doing? Okay.
Yeah, you see how it's like running it basically 20 times or something, I think, and then making sure they all hit.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. So we've got. So now we got our tests fixed. We should probably try running all the tests. Let's see what happens.
Hey, at least it built.
Can we blow it up?
Oh, come on now.
Nice. It failed. We like when tests fail. It means we're changing things. Oh, there it is.
Value cannot be null. What was null?
I don't know.
Is the digger not getting instantiated the way we thought?
Let's see what dig does. Dig dug. Oh boy.
Oh, there's 5 people on. Hello, everybody.
That's too many.
I know, right? I'm getting stage fright now. We've crossed the stage fright threshold.
I have a feeling. I feel like it might end up being the. I don't know. Let's try debugging it. Why don't you? Because it seems like it could be related to the lifetime stuff, but
you think it's somewhere inside of that from state or something?
No, I think it's from this. It's in this line here. Ah, yeah. So we don't have.
So lifetime stats is not newed up at all? Is that the deal? Or is it that step? I can't hover with you. I'm trying to hover on your screen.
What are you trying to look at?
What is in lifetime stats right now?
Yeah, it is equal to null.
What the heck is that?
But it's newed up with that, so. Ooh, well, this is good. What did we break?
Mm-hmm.
It's in the digger. It's got to be in this digger state piece here.
Right, because you were doing that from state, right?
Oh,
no.
So I think we might want to do something like. Maybe we should change how this happens. We're gonna do a null operator on this. We'll probably have to do that some other place, right? And so we'll just new up the list. So if it comes in null, so basically this is one of those newer operators that says if this is null, then pass this instead. Very similar to the way the double pipes work in JavaScript, I believe. All right, so that I think should resolve it for us. It's a little embarrassing, Jim, that we're actually kind of short on our tests because so much of the development we were doing, we weren't doing it test first, so we had all this stuff in there that couldn't be tested. We've made some changes recently that have now allowed us to start really being able to build out some of these tests. So we're looking forward to being able to get to that point. Because like these now being able to do the commands and doing the entities, that was a big piece in one of the more recent ones. Oh. So here's a question. This test here should have returned empty. This, I think, has been broken for a little while.
Well, it should be hitting that can dig, right? And dumping out. Like, I think that's what happens in the code eventually, right? Isn't there? Not anymore, I guess.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I think we must have changed. Because we moved the spot that this was happening. Roll durability.
Well, what was calling dig? Because we shouldn't even be in here. Like if it's at 0, because that's what that logic was testing. That's what that test was testing. It was setting durability to 0, so nothing should happen.
You know what? We added a can dig. All right, so there's actually a test that we have on the digger. Oh, sorry, my hand
Yeah,
being
there's
in this.
can dig. Right.
And this is actually what does that check.
Yeah, and durability. So that should be happening, but we moved it. We moved it out. It used to be tied into the dig.
Yeah.
Okay. Like it used to be right in there.
Which I think, I mean,
Well, we pulled it back out, and it felt like I feel like it made sense when we did.
oh, I think it did. See how this is being used. This is kind of the so we were doing it to try to help reduce our call set. Which I guess technically we're still going through all of them and doing that and then going through the last bit for this piece.
So maybe that test just really needs what it really needs to test is can dig.
Yeah. I think that's what we should be testing.
Because that's how we do it now.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, let's go that route. I still feel like that shows an interesting problem here that the dig may be getting called when digability isn't possible. Digability.
Well, because it used to get called just every time through.
Yeah.
And then all this stuff was done within the dig.
Right.
But we popped that out, and it made sense to do it when we did. I still feel I can't remember what we got exactly, but I remember feeling good about it. So I think that really what we need to do is we need to test. See, though, if you call dig and the durability is down, it should still dump out, huh?
So I'm looking at this piece of code here.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like maybe we don't need the can dig. And then we just do the dig. But I think the result set needs to be different. Right? So right now, so one of the things that we did is that initially this was all this logic that was in the dig was kind of happening all in one spot, but the way it was outputting was weird. So here's my thought. This dig result should actually have a enumerated result. And I'll show you kind of what I'm thinking. Right? So what we have here is this idea that we're just telling how much durability was lost and how many chips were dug, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think what we should have as well is a dig status.
And what would go in there?
Right? That is a very good question. So, what I was seeing looking at that code was I was seeing a situation of success, but I was also seeing hopper full, and I was seeing.
Well, they're not mutually exclusive. So that's not going to work quite like that. But you could give them maybe you could maybe give them switches on the object or something.
Okay, hold on a second. Sorry, I'm trying to get back to where I was. How did I lose the spot? Oh, it must have been a temporary reference. All right, so when the hopper is full, All right, so we're looking at this. Sorry, I'm just trying to. So here's the portion. I'm just gonna break this apart. Right. So this is the portion that does our durability check.
Mm-hmm.
This last bit here, just make sure that it's not below 0. And then maybe it's not part of the result. I feel like it should be. I feel like the result, but I think the result may only need to be that it's broken.
Or full. And full. That's what I was saying. Those two values are not mutually exclusive. Because those are the two things that could cause you to not dig when you call a dig.
Whoa, that's not what I meant to do. Stop. I don't know what I just did. That's a rogue right click. Oh, okay. Right, I see what you're saying. So you're saying the dig result could have... We could have actually gotten chips, and we were broken, and the hopper is full.
Well, technically, if either the hopper was full or it was broken, it shouldn't be able to dig chips, but both of those can be true.
Right. Yeah, so Jim, what I was looking at here is that where this piece of code gets called. So what we ended up doing is we have a regular process that basically goes through the diggers and tries to dig. That then, when it does that dig attempt, it has a result. The result right now, the way that it's set up is what stops this being called when it shouldn't be is not in this spot. So what ends up happening is that you could call this dig when you shouldn't be able to, right? Because you could technically make this call, have the digger be broken and the hopper being full, and this would allow it to actually happen because there's nothing that stops it.
Right. So you would just you get your chips.
Yeah. So there could be a breakage in the code. So that's what I was looking at. Maybe what I can do is I can start this up and just kind of show you how that piece is happening. Just we could show you where that's at.
Right, because as it is, right, a broken digger should dig, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no, because I think we still have that can dig in the code where it happens.
The code does take care of it.
Okay. But the test doesn't because we're calling dig directly.
Correct, and that's what made that stand out because, yeah, you shouldn't be able to call into it. So, in the sense of this game, this one is one that I've just loaded up, Jim, and you can see. So I have a digger named Pete. Actually, I have a digger named. So I have a bunch of diggers. The problem is right now they're all broken. So these are durabilities of 0, and Pete is full because he has 0 hopper space left out of the 30. So if I go to the control room, I can now do a empty Pete, and now that
I feel much better.
And so what'll happen is I don't remember what our default is, but every 15 seconds or something like that, the digger will attempt to extract. And that is correct, exactly. It's an invalid status, still it's technically valid.
Potentially. Now, in the game loop, we've handled it. So I don't think it's. You notice how, like, when it was broken, there's nothing digging. But the way our unit tests are set up, it brings out the fact that you can call the dig function without calling that can dig function before it and totally fill your hopper with extra chips.
Yep. So it allows a programmer coming behind us that wants to try to add some functionality to this game, potentially to call that dig too many times and allow it to continue to dig. This is how you get those like duplication bugs in like World of Warcraft, like where there was
like cloning gold and stuff.
Yeah, cloning gold and things like that. Like that's how this kind of stuff ends up happening because the validation check isn't in the right spot. So there was some programmer that put this thing in there and it's not getting checked the way it should. So, like, what I would like to be able to do is do a test here that says, if can dig, actually, say, if you can't dig, I would
Yeah.
like to have a result here.
Well, what comes out of can dig? Just a true false, right?
Yeah, that's all we wanted it for initially when we set it up. But see, right now our dig result here only has chips dug and durability loss.
Right, and that's not even coming out of anywhere, right? Like that's just we're generating it right now.
Yes, well,
So,
that's what this
we
is
don't even.
down here. This is
Well,
the
I'm just saying, the can dig. We don't even know what we missed on at this point. Like, if we wanted to report something back.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I was coming back at this. Like, I'm trying to figure out how we want to do this. The question is, should this can dig even be out here? I think it should, only because I think there's going to be times that are going to help us trim down lists and stuff that when we don't want to, especially if
we may want to call it, yeah.
But I think this dig result needs to have more information on it. Now,
So, would you like to do it with like a false list or something? Like collect those up and give it back from that can dig?
yeah, list of faults.
Yeah, so like maybe there's like I don't know, like a tuple situation, maybe like a true and false, or just a list, and if it's empty, that's true. I hate that stuff though, because it's hard to it's like hiding code a little bit when you do something like that.
We could. So I'm thinking about a pattern that is used where you can use like a fault list, right? So we could do, maybe we could do a string and do fault messages.
Right. Not have eye collections in here or something.
It doesn't come in by default with the. I turned it off so that I just get regular stuff, but control period brings it right back in. So then the question with this, then we're going to need to do an add fault.
Okay.
And then we'll pass in a message. And then this way we'll update the fault messages.
That could probably be private, right?
The add.
She's not going to want to add that from anywhere else. Maybe protect it in case we decided that we wanted to.
You know what? Maybe what we can do. Let's do this. Let's change this whole thing around. Let's make this private.
Okay.
Right, and then this will take a list of fault messages. Right, and then this will just be
an empty list.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to do
Actually,
this.
yeah, it's defaulted up there. There you
go. I have to null it. And then do...
Right.
Alright, so now we'll get that. But now what I want to do is I want to add... Nope, it doesn't need to be a read only because I'm not doing it as that. I'm doing it as an action. So we're going to return a dig result. We want to say do success, and then we'll just take the chips dug and the durability lost.
Okay.
And then like that.
Okay.
And then do one that is going to be fault. And now we'll take, since it's a fault, well, no, because we can have faults with chips being dug, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Can you? No, because you would fault next time. I don't think you can, John. I don't think we can get chips if we're faulted. It would be the next dig would fault. Like if we broke the digger this dig and the durability hit 0 this time around, you'd still get the chips. But then next time you wouldn't be able to dig.
So you could get chips.
Yeah, you can get chips this time. But then you wouldn't be faulted. No, you can't be faulted and get chips.
So here's the thing that's interesting about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of why I was thinking about making it separate. Well, let's do this. Let's put it in as just the list first, right? And so what I was actually thinking, we could do this where we do params.
Okay.
Nope, I did this wrong. It's gonna be, yeah, there we go.
Okay. Yeah.
I need to do a .2 list. I wasn't sure if I was going to have to or not. Oh, why not?
String.
It
What?
does. I don't have the system.link.
Oh.
All right, so. All right, cool. All right, so now when we come over to our digger here, now we can just do
Fault. Otherwise.
I'll just say broken for right now. This is. But then down here. Oh yeah, okay, that'll be fine. It's the only thing about this. I'm not sure how we feel about it. I'm sorry about the mouse wheel thing. It's my hand on with the with this brace on. It's like it puts my hand in a weird spot on the mouse, and my finger just kind of drags on the wheel sometimes. Yeah. So the question is, do we want to have the Ken dig return what's going on?
I feel like that's where we know about it.
Yeah, I think you're right too. Oh, and this has a different. So this has two different things that we're doing here, and that's where I think the problem comes in.
Oh, look at the time thing.
Mm-hmm. So there's like there's actually a state.
So there's like a ready state.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So there's like a ready to dig state.
Yeah.
That's that state you were sensing.
Yeah. Maybe we should have. Maybe it should be something like that.
I mean,
ready to dig. Whoa! How did that happen?
Like, separate that piece off. What did you do there? That was weird.
I have no idea. I'm assuming it's a code rush functionality that I just am not familiar with. And so really, it's basically this check. Right, so this is basically telling us that the digger has done all of the stuff it needs to do before it actually goes and actually digs something.
Right.
And then this can dig here. Shouldn't need that. And then the question becomes: is do we use this?
as part of the ready,
Yeah.
or vice versa, really. But depending on which way we wanted to drive the bus, I guess. But
I think I want to say maybe we should do this as So the hopper already has a nice spot to check it, right? So we can leave that. I'm wondering if we should have this durability here saying is broken. And this should actually be the other way around. So I'll tell you the reason I was thinking about this, right? Is I'm thinking about this gate here. And I feel like we can basically now check. I'm not. So what I wanted to be able to do is, instead of having this here, we will do hopper is full.
do you want to address this in more of like a data-driven way? Because I'm thinking about this, it's like, man, we're going to have to code like a new little function on here every time we add a new feature to the digger that might make it not be able to dig. So I totally had the concept of fuel that we were going to add in, and being out of fuel will make you not dig.
That is true. That is true. Huh.
Right?
Yeah. How do we make this extendable? That is a tricky proposition here. So I think this part is right. Right. I think we have to have something that's like this. Maybe there's So this would be broken. See, I almost want this to be on the durability. To be like durability dot is broken. So then durability itself is its own abstract concept versus just a number. But it's okay. I think we can kind of work with it. But maybe you're right. Maybe we should have a can dig, and maybe we have
like maybe we can. I don't know what those values would look like. Like I don't know how that would become data driven. We'd need to put like some kind of a structure around that. Like a type. I don't know.
I don't know if we can make it fully data driven. But I think we can make it so that this process of doing it is one spot.
Yeah, well, it seems like there's going to have to be like I guess code written somewhere, but as far as this goes, we can kind of just load a queue with the criteria.
Yeah.
Very quiet
here. Yeah. I know. It's what happens when
we're both concentrating. Trying to think about it. Hey Jim, your last comment was that a question or was that a comment? It's from a while ago.
Yeah, I think that was a response to the stuff because. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Jim. I didn't want to leave you hanging. I wasn't sure if that was if you're pointing something out or okay.
Let's leave that like that. So I think if we leave this where we have that on there, then in here, I want to do this in a way that makes sense, right? So I was initially thinking of the can dig being the same thing, right? That we were kind of doing before.
Right.
So that here, but it wouldn't have the timepiece in it, right? Because it wouldn't be necessary.
Right. Because that timepiece is a little bit different.
Yeah, because that's really about whether the machine is ready to do it, right? The entity is ready to actually perform that operation. The can dig, on the other hand, is like, is it in a state that is diggable?
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Now, right now, that's really just the time, and then these other qualities.
yeah. Well, I think the um, this is where, how do we? I don't want to belabor on this too much,
Right.
but I was gonna say maybe maybe we make this a private. Actually, we'll do this as private, and we'll do a thing like. So I'm gonna try this first. Let's do this. We'll return it as a list of string. I don't know why I keep wanting to capitalize it.
Okay.
And we'll say get fault messages.
Okay.
And then this way we can do an we do a hopper that is full. We can do hopper is full. And then we can do is broken.
And what's that yield doing for us in this scenario?
Give me 1 second. Let me just. I was trying to look for what these messages were. I should probably just copy the whole thing in. No, not name of. Just need a name.
Yeah.
That's all we need.
If you have it here, why not? Right?
Yeah, right. And then this is the same idea, except this is going to be for being broken. All right. So in the case here of what this is doing, does this need to be in? Can I list work? No, it has to be an IEnumerable.
Oh, is that the problem? That's right.
Yeah. So the idea of here is that I'm able to check this, and then this will return with that value, and then this will check and return with this value. Versus newing up a list and adding it to the list. It basically does the same concept.
So this yield will allow that code to continue down?
Yes. Yeah. It's just like what it actually was. So it's really interesting about how this code works. If you were doing a for each and you were using this get faulted messages, what would happen is you would get you would do the iterator would do this return, and then the code execution in this method would stop. And then when it would go to get the next one, it would allow this code execution to go till it hits the next yield return. And then you would be able to work with that one. And then when it does the get next, it'll know that it hit the end of the list or the end of the method, and the yield stops. You want me to show you that? I could show you that in we could probably do it in a test, actually, because we can debug through it.
Right. So really, you're getting like looping functionality.
No,
so you're not really though. You're just okay.
Yeah, the best reason for doing something like this is so that this is probably not a great condition situation for it. What's happening in this case here is because it's only 2 items, there isn't a lot of processing that's happening to get to this first yield. But imagine if we were going to return 10,000 items.
Right.
And in that 10,000 items, to get each one could potentially take a long period of time. So if you have to get everything all at once, that 10,000 records is going to take a long time. It's going to take more memory, right? Because you have to build it all up into memory. What's happening in this case is that we're able to loop through this one case. So if there's a bunch of memory needed to do this one thing and it was going to take a lot of time, it would only do the one entity amount of time. And then the next one would do the next. So it does the for loop that goes around this would get this first one and then stop, process the stuff in its loop, then go to the next one, and then this piece of execution of code would happen. It's like it does this weird thing where it like stops execution of a method and allows the method to continue. Ways that people used to have to do this before was they would have to construct a whole object that would support IEnumerable to do all this stuff. So they basically made a nice, easy way to implement that within a method that makes it easier to read, because this is much easier to read than to try to go look at an implementation of IEnumerable that does that.
Right.
So it makes it nice. It makes it good in certain situations when there's potentially a lot of processing that's happening in there. It also can help make some functions look better. There's been situations where you're doing a for each loop in here, and that for each loop is going to be long and long processing. So you want to start reading through it without having to go through all of it. And that's the other thing the yield returns. The other benefit is that on the other side is, let's say that loop, the outside loop on this cuts out early. Let's say for some reason, instead of that 10,000 numbers that it's going through, it only needed to actually go through the first 10. And then it found, I found my thing, and stops going through it. This yield would stop happening also. So you basically are able to short circuit inside of methods by using a yield return as well. I don't know how. I'm trying to think of how to make it work.
No, I understand.
Yeah, Jim's saying it's sort of like a switch statement without loading all of the conditionals into memory.
Exactly. I get it. Yeah, it's sort of it is kind of what it's like, and then you wouldn't have to loop through and get every one. You just drop through, and whatever's true gets stuffed.
Yeah, because it could be a situation like, so let's say, for example, with this one here, we did a check that says get fault messages.any is a great example. It would only ever have to hit this first one. It would never actually go to the second yield because it hit one. And boom, it's done.
Over.
It's over. It doesn't need any of the rest of it. So the rest of this code never executes. So if this rest of this execution took another minute and a half, you finished it in the first loop there.
Yeah, I definitely get it. I'm trying to think. I'm not sure if the more beginner type people that are watching are really getting what's going on there, but I do get it. The way that it's just shifting it in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to leave it for right now, and then we can kind of show an example of it when we get we can.
Sounds like a blog post to me.
Yeah, right.
Yield method, or yield kind of method. It's a command. What is that?
Yeah. Keyword? The only thing that is a bummer here.
I think Jim just volunteered to do a guest blog post for us. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Jim.
It would be awesome. How'd you feel that way?
Oh, man. So the only problem with this as an IEnumerable, why this may not work out good, is that I'm actually using the check of if there's fault messages to make a decision. So the part of the problem with this as an IEnumerable is that for me to check, it's going to have to run the enumerable and then restart it again. We support drunk monkeys here, Jim. It's just so you know. It's like we...
Have you looked at the site, Jim? Have you looked at it? It'll fit right in.
It'll fit right in. All right, so I'm just going to do a .to list on this. Oh, not toString. because I need to get all these messages out. I can't.
Yeah.
So it kind of defeats the purpose.
Right. It makes all that thriftiness we just did.
Yeah, because we're still executing the whole thing anyways. But
yeah, it's a learning experience. This whole thing. So.
Yeah. All right. So we'll do fault, and then we'll pass in the fault messages.
All right.
It did not like something here. I'm sure. Yeah. I'm almost feeling like it's so I don't have to have all this on here. I'm just going to return that to a list. But let me. The part that I'm having a problem here is to array.
Ah, there you go.
I know, it's weird. So, because I tried to make it easier so we could do this as params, right? So we could do this param strings and we could pass in a list of them. This way will work. Yeah, this is the only way to really do it. What I do want to do is, this should have yelled at me. I guess it won't.
For what? What were you expecting to have a problem with?
So usually I would get a warning that this enumerable is being executed in a way that it actually does it twice, because this here executes the enumerable and then this here restarts it. So it basically will end up doing that call to that list twice. That's where the problem of having an IEnumerable means that you could technically end up in a situation where you're re-executing the IEnumerable, which means you're actually doing it twice. Whereas a to list, you get all the data in one bulk. Jim, the situation I was having is that this fault is taking a type of param string array fault messages, because I wanted to be able to do something like I was looking to do a fault and be able to do message 1 and then do
a list of them.
Yeah, message 2, like that. And so I was hoping that's what I was when I wrote the method. I was thinking, this is what we'll probably use it like. And it turns out that we actually are going to get the list and pass it in. So it's kind of like, I could probably switch this to an array or to a to list instead of that params. We can always come back and do it that way. We can add it as an overload for it. So maybe for right now, we'll actually take this as a
just a list.
Yeah. And this isn't even necessary. That's right. I wanted to change this to a to list anyways. So I'll make that a list. And then we're just going to go back to the old. That's good, Jim. You need to keep that coder brain working. After all that managerial stuff that you've been doing. Which I do have to say, I do miss working with you, man.
As do I.
We had some good times.
Maybe we'll get the band back together someday. I'll tell you what, Jim, we're trying to do stuff at least on our own. So if you want to be part of it, that's why I was trying to pull together something, maybe do like a Discord hackathon or something like that. You can do it. Oh boy. Well, fire those guys and hire us then, I guess. I don't know what to tell you, man.
Wow. So, yeah. All right. So now that we've got this in there, which is, I think this is good. We need to. Oh, you know what we didn't do? Oh yeah, no, we did. Okay, we're good. Now we have to change how this works, right? Because now this dig, this is
Right.
not.
Well,
This
there's
is
that can
ready to
dig.
dig, right?
Right. Stuff in here is pretty good, though.
Yeah. What we want though, I think we're gonna have to say.
Right, because we have that now.
Right. So now we have this. We're gonna say if it doesn't fail, then we should do this, and then else we can do this. But what's nice is that in here now we're gonna say. um,
Natives get restless. We got to run something soon. They're getting bored. Run the code. Run the code.
We are so good. We don't need to run code.
Yeah, we're running it in our minds right now.
We're going to. We're going to basically. We're just going to put it in production and run it. So. All right. So there's that. This then goes away.
All deprecated, yeah, because now we're handling it in there.
Yeah. Come on. Scroll mouse.
Now it's coding with the handicapped over there with your hand, man.
Oh my goodness. I hope I never have that happen again. Extra special.
Stay away from that carpentry, John. Stick to the coding.
I know, but I had such a good time.
I know, but you got to build things in the abstract. It just hurt your brain.
Yeah. I mean, I'm building something, but it's just not the same as like your hands on it kind of a thing. So we're going to do failed, and we should say should be true. Let's try this again. Run all the tests.
For this project, Jim? No.
No. I have been trying to re-review that. Excellent. Now we are getting code back. We're getting the tests running properly. I actually do like the fact that this now is very clear about the fact that this failed, so we can see, like, it's clear about what happened. Whereas the zero number of chips dug may not actually even be a failure in a sense. You know, like we may have a situation where the digger hits something where it actually rolls a 0.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that would. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But I mean, that's a potential.
Yeah, but it isn't the same thing. Whereas failed is failed. I agree with you 100%. I think that's way better.
Yeah, I did change this to this, right? Yeah, so. Okay. This is looking good. That was so we can get that test working after we basically hit all that stuff.
Oh, it's using should be, Jim. That's what that shouldness is. Is that what's throwing you?
It's just like the languages. So the idea is that instead of doing an assert, like that, it's a similar idea. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I say, it's after looking so many asserts, this felt nicer, especially when you're trying to do it comparing it to something like this here where it says.
Yeah, those ones it's much nicer. I mean, I get what you're saying about sort of like a double negative kind of situation, but yeah.
Yeah, it is better. Yeah. So, okay. So we now have at least the test, and this is clear that dig manager entity is looking good. Yeah. The part about this that I'm I'm a little. I'll say this: like the only thing I'm a little concerned about, and I'm sure we're gonna figure out a way to deal with this, is these messages that we're doing. I'm not sure how we go about once these messages are kind of dug into here. How do we deal with if we want to use, be able to do multiple languages and stuff like that to use a resource kit for the messages?
Yeah, well, that's going to get hairy, but we're going to have to cross many bridges when that is.
Yeah.
When that's on our agenda, there's several things that are going to get messy with the way we did it. But
Yeah.
it's not insurmountable though.
True. There's a lot of people that want to play this in other countries in their native language. So
I know we're huge in Europe.
That's how you decide. Oh, I just realized I don't have my light on. I was wondering why it was starting to get dark in here. All right. Better. Let's say no. We're going to do big time 1. Oh, big game. Oh!
What?
Interesting.
What did you do, John? So the timing isn't working.
Because...
Did you not put the timing in?
So I did, but it is an infinite loop. So one of the things that we did, Jim, except it means it's only telling us that it's broken all the time.
Yeah.
So what we did for the way that the diggers work, how about this? I want to fix this real quick, and there we go. This will resolve it. Basically, because this is the test that tells it whether it should run it or not, and it didn't. So it just kept looping. Correct. So this checks to see if the digger is able to dig, right? So there's a 15-minute or 15-second loop timer, I believe. I believe that's what we did the default for.
I think it's 15 seconds. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So seconds between dig is 15. So the loop that does it, this ready to dig here, basically doesn't put it into the loop unless the timing is right. But the timing was right. It's just that the digger itself was broken, so it could no longer dig. So it kept hitting this message to the dig regardless and was popping out these messages, which is kind of right, except for the fact we don't want to report it that frequently.
Right. Well, we need to kind of check off the frame or something, right, when we get in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
I'm gonna.
You did. I'm sorry, I was looking away.
I'm gonna start a new game here, just to kind of go through what the idea, right? So, what we've done is this idea that you're a miner, and you basically have 2 rooms that you can go to. We have a store, and this is where you can buy the diggers that you're using, and the bolts. Right now there isn't too much other stuff in here. I think of it that way too, Jim. Every now and then it's like it switches in my head. All of a sudden I'm thinking of miners, not miners. I'm like, oh, why did that just pop in my head that way? So from here we can say we want to buy 2 diggers. So now you can see that.
Yeah. So we got the digger added to inventory. Yeah. We can see we got the achievement over there for buying the first digger.
Yeah, so now we've gotten, because we have implemented the achievements into it, so that's one of them. So once you have a digger, then you can go over to the control room. And the control room is where we have all the commands for basically equipping them, inspecting them, repairing them, emptying them, destroying them. Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff in this room. So to get the digger started, so we do an equip digger, and it wants the name. So we'll do one as Jim, and I have 2 diggers, so I can equip 2 of them. We'll get it Jim and Pete. So what happens when the digger gets placed is it rolls what kind of plot that it's put on, right? So it's saying that this digger's been put on where it's normal density
Normal,
and
yeah.
and
Go ahead.
and a firmness of hard. This one's a solid hardness, which means it's going to be harder, which means you're more likely to lose durability on the digger itself.
Right, and the density has to do with the amount of chips you scoop out per scoop.
Yeah.
So high density, lots of chips per scoop, and then a harder surface, more damage. So really, you want like soft and high density, and that's going to give you the most chips.
Yeah, and Jim, you're right about that. It's like the diggers wear out as it does it. So what you're seeing here is the result of each dig. So this first one here for Pete, or this first one, this list here is, I start at the bottom. So Jim here, it's like you dug 4, and then it did a damage of 3, and so you can see what the result of the durability and how much hopper space is left. So these here are how it performed. Here's the result on your digger. So now while that's running, you can still look at your diggers in the list, and you can then see like what kind of plot that they're on, as well as how much is left in their space.
Yes, because of the hardness. So that it took a lot more damage per dig. And then you could actually, if you look at the lifetime, we keep track of how many times you get repaired and how much damage you took and how many chips you've yielded through the game.
So now the fix that I just did caused a problem. So it wore out, but we didn't get the message that it wore out.
Oh yeah, it says it up top. Like there's a list of broken digger. Like the broken diggers list has a 1 on it, but it didn't tell us. Okay, so there's a bug.
That was a concern that I had before when we were doing it. And that was the thing that I was trying to figure out. Is like, how do we? It's almost like how do we control it? But let's continue with kind of like the game. So now that we've got that, so Pete's broken. So then we can do a repair Pete. And so now it tells us that the cost will be 3 tater tokens and 8 bolts. One of the problems, I don't have any bolts. I do have some tokens because I've won them in the lottery.
And you have to empty the diggers too when they're full, and then they go into the chips go into your chip vault, and then you can sell them for tokens at the store. That's how you get income. Yeah, take your tokens.
Yeah, so now we've got 46 chips, and so if I go over to the store, then I can do sell chip. And so now that sells for 46. So what you can see is up here, we can see these tater tokens are now 176. And then I can now I'm going to buy 15 bolts. So now I can go back over to the control room, and I can repair Pete again. Now the thing that's interesting is you'll notice that now it's 6 tater tokens and 8 bolts. And if I do it again, it'll come out as a different.
It's actually running on a canvas, Jim. It's actually a mono game, so it's not even really a console. It's like spoofing a console.
Yeah, so at some point we'll be able to kind of mix in some data and stuff, or some graphics and whatnot. So it's pretty neat. It's like it's going to be kind of like a pseudo console game. The library that we're using is called Sad Console. It's pretty slick. You know what? That's one of those things, Pete, that I was saying that we need to work on with the stream is you can do the help, and we can kind of put some information about the project that we're working on and where all that stuff is happening at. So like if he was looking at this, we could do like you could type into the message box like a bang
for
info
Sad Console
or something. Yeah, so it'd come up in a show like that we're using Sad Console and stuff like that.
Yeah, actually, if you look at the previous stream page on FP Task Code, if you go to the stream information page, I linked when we first brought it into the project. I had actually linked to the Sad Console if you want to read up about
it. So one of the things too, like that's actually happening as this is going on. We can actually do like an inspect on the different hoppers or the different diggers. We can also do, what was the
it was inspect lifetime, inspect Pete, or whatever digger lifetime.
Yeah, so this is a good one only for this one because it shows how many times it's dug, what's total chips that it's earned, how many repairs have been done, how many bolts and tokens it's cost to actually fix it.
Tokes. It should be tokens. Lifetime tokes cost 5. Right.
Not quite as family friendly as we thought. The
It's a broken message to be skipped.
Yes.
I'm not.
Yes, Jim. It definitely is. I can tell you the reason. Because I was concerned about it as we were working on it, but then I went back and did some last minute fix. So the fault happened during the dig. So it's like it was a successful dig, but the result of the dig put the digger into a faulted state.
Right.
So what's happening is this call happens. There was no messages because it passed.
Because it never tried to dig.
Because it got past here, right? So it went through and it dug, and everything's like, hey, everything's good. But then the next time through, it failed, but it never got to failed because ready to dig never let it back into the loop again. Because to get this to work right, I basically am doing that check on the get faulted messages. So I'm checking that it's faulted as part of that ready to dig.
So it never gets back in to write it.
Yeah. This is why I had this returning true, right? Initially, was so that we would be able to get back into this. The problem is we only want it to fail once. And I don't think there's a good way to do that.
Well, it can tell you every time it comes through that it needs to be fixed. I don't really object to that, or that it needs to be emptied. I don't know. Do you think that's a bad thing?
It seemed like a lot. Did you see it happening?
Seconds. It did seem like a lot, but it'd probably be less with more diggers.
It's still 15 seconds. I'll load up the I'll load up one here. So
that's not 15 seconds.
So you know what we could do? Let's see what happens if we do it with 15 seconds.
Need to bail out on a fault after dig is complete, but before ready to dig.
Yeah. I was trying to. So what we could do is we could make this process. So we make this last dig. So this does two things. One is it will update the time it'll check for the next dig. Right? So, wow, why did that one just get loud? That just like took over the freaking sound. I could just fast forward it. Go to the next one. So moving this up here will make it so that every time this dig attempt happens, it'll reset that timer, right? So we will get the message every 15 seconds.
Okay.
The only potential issue with that is that if we do it like this, if we do repair it, it won't try to dig immediately, right? Like, so let's say
it'll wait 15 seconds.
Potentially, yes, or up to 15 seconds.
Right, whatever the difference is between now and the next time it runs.
Right, because that timer will stay there.
I feel like that's okay too. I feel like that's even sort of a feature.
Okay. I'm just wondering at one point, yeah, it feels like Doctor Who, doesn't it? It's like kind of like, how did this episode work? Oh. Oh, shoot. I know. So we'll have to work on that. The game didn't exist, the game file.
Oh, yeah, well, that could be a problem.
Yeah.
All right, so those all came out with needing repair. Then 15 seconds goes by, and Pete should dig again. The other should come out needing repair. and now Pete's full.
So here's
another thing, John. Let me throw this out there, okay? Another thing I had in mind for the game concept itself, like the way the game plays, is that at some point here, I would like to add a feature that those broken and full diggers, every time this comes around, costs you tokens if they're not running.
Oh.
To encourage you to not let them sit, to create a certain freneticness about the gameplay.
Right.
So with that said, I don't know how that plays into this whole time frame thing we've been dealing with here.
Yeah. I think yes. I think I agree with Jim. I think that is a good ad actually. So maybe we'd leave it like this. I think that's fine because it will definitely punch you in the face with it.
Yeah. So yeah, because that's why I wanted to put that in. In fact, I talked to Val about it, like even like when it was a real console game, when we were kind of just specking it out, like imagining it up, and that was one of the things.
Right.
We talked about like it existed already, and it was back when you need to hit the space bar to empty the digger before we actually typed it in.
That's right.
And, yeah, you remember that? And we were talking about like, oh, what we should do is like if it keeps running before you hit that space bar, it should cost you money. So
it's not a bad idea because it's trying to, and it just keeps doing something that's breaking the machine more.
Right, so it makes you deal with it. It's like either scrap it or fix it or do something with it.
Oh yeah, because that was the other piece we can do is you could scrap. I don't remember which ones are which. I guess it doesn't really matter. I'm not really playing it, so I'm not going to save it.
Normal, firm. Scrap Allison.
Did you hear that, Allison? Oh, only good for 7 bolts.
7 bolts. So the concept is if you have like basically a beat digger, like you get a bad roll for a digger, you can scrap it and the yield will be bolts. So it's basically it's like disenchanting it. Like if you get like a goofy green and wow, just disenchant for mats. That's the deal.
Yeah.
That's the repair item, Jim. So that you need bolts and money to repair the good diggers. So it's like a mat.
Yeah. Yeah, and we haven't figured out yet quite. Yeah, exactly. Not quite sure yet.
Material, like a crafting material kind of thing. You know what a mat is.
Yeah. Well, he even said it.
Yeah. For some reason, I read a question mark that wasn't there. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Like a mat?
Yeah. This is pretty neat. Like the exciting part is that now we can actually start really getting some of the stuff into this game too. That's why I was like, if we could make it where there was just like an Excel file or something, whatever, put some resource file in there that we could just put the stuff in there and be like, hey, we want a new item, we want a new this, we want a new piece for that to happen.
Right. Yeah, and then we could start like actually plugging in new features and things. Yeah, good stuff. And then like once that, because there's also I don't know if you noticed, but there was a hopper that took 100 chips. So once you get to an achievement basically in the game, you then get the availability to buy a larger hopper and upgrade your digger. So there's going to be a bunch more of that going on as well. You doing a demo, John?
Yeah, because it's in the, I have it in this one. That's why I saved this game, because it already has it. So if you look at the diggers here, so I have 100 hopper spaces. So,
right. So he's got the upgraded hopper.
Oh, and the problem with me is I need to be repaired.
And emptied. Oh no, not empty. No. You have 100.
I know this. We got to figure out some way of making this consistent, because this is showing you how much is free, and this is showing you how much is used.
How much is used? I know.
It does trick me out sometimes when I'm looking at it. I'm like, wait a minute, what's that one?
Yeah, you've all worked with me. It's a very Pete thing to do. Oh, it's coming, man. It's coming.
Yeah, we have. There's some things that I was talking about with them that would like to do where we can make it where it's going to be online and you can play it through Twitch. So you could be in Twitch and you could actually send commands as part of the chat stream. So you could be like, bang, repair, whatever the digger is, and on the screen, like you'd see diggers running and stuff like that. But
that would be awesome if we can get to that.
Yeah.
So actually, John, if you go to the store, you can show them the upgraded digger in the inventory as well. See, now it's got not digger, hopper. So it's got the large hopper in there, and it's got the so that was, you got that for an achievement. I think if you do minor, does it show achievements yet? I don't think so. All right, so we didn't show where to actually. I didn't think I put anything in there.
Yeah, we have them. 1,200 Vader tokens.
It is a lot, but you know what? Once you get a lot of diggers going, you can get there.
It's a lot of taters.
Gotta have something to do with all them taters.
It's so funny. Oh man, it's pretty neat.
So it is working, and we're seeing the messages coming out. So that concept is working better.
Yeah, I think having it where that loop just resets itself and reports that out, I think that's actually pretty good.
It's not too often.
No, it's not too bad.
All right, cool.
I was worried that, initially I was worried that it would, so the main difference is what would happen before we made the change that we just did was that, I'm going to wait till the next message pops up, but you can see the hoppers are full for John and Pete. What would happen, so if I go to the control room, so now if I empty Pete, we have to wait until the next loop of the tries by it. So it's going to happen in 15 seconds because I just did it right at the beginning of that loop, and so now it'll do it. Whereas before, as soon as I hit empty Pete, it would dig immediately.
Right.
Now there is one other thought if it's gonna be like this. So here's a part that's interesting, and maybe we can talk about that. Is that so these are all on the same loop because I loaded the game, right? And so when I loaded the game, it brought them all in and started them all up at the same time because they all had, the last time they had dug had been a long time ago, right? So they all started at the same time. But if I were to go into the store and I buy another digger, and I equip that one. So now let me wait to the middle of this.
No, I don't think we need to thread it up. I don't think that's where we're going. That's not what you're talking about, is it, John?
No, I don't know. In a sense, they kind of work on a separate thread. We actually have them all in the same thread, but they all have their own timer. They all have when they last processed. The problem was that when we load up the new game, so load up the game to make it so that they would be staggered. Because
Well, when the game starts up, we don't really. Do we record the last dig of the digger?
You know what we could do? We could store the game time because that's what controls this.
That's what I'm saying. If we had the last run and we had the game timer, then you have it. It just starts up right where we were.
Yeah, I think that's the answer because the game timer is really how long the game's been running. It'd be interesting to figure out how we set that. Yeah. So then, I don't know. I think we might be able to get away with that. I'll take a look and see. That's one that's a little tricker.
Right, but it's just a value, right? It's just like
X,
basically. It's like an elapsed time. It's not like the time.
Yeah. So I'll show Jim here what I'm talking about, or what we're talking about, because we've been working on this a long time. Is that in the I think it's in this one.
Yeah, this one has it. This is the game loop. Here.
Yeah. So this is basically our main loop for the whole thing, right? So this basically loops through all these entities that we've created which are what allow the operations to happen in the game, and they basically get an update every frame sent to them, and they get this frame information, which has a game time and has a time elapsed between frames. So there's a lot of stuff that we use where we try to use the game time as the focus. That's how we control that 15 seconds. The 15 seconds gets controlled basically because this game time elapsed comes in and it checks about from the last time it actually dug to get that value. So if you look in so this is the game time that's coming in. In the digger, you see we pass in this game time as a time span, and then that's how we can store the last dig time, which then that actually does get saved. The thing that's not getting saved at the moment is this game time elapsed. Just
that value, at the game level.
Yeah.
Right, because that would be part of like do we have a game state? We don't have like a top level state like that. Kind of the minor. It's not.
The start time for the digging, Jim, is actually more based on when you equip it. That's like that first one that happens.
It's like turning it on.
Yeah.
And then I guess if you fix it again, then I guess it's still seated at that 15 seconds, right?
That time will stay consistent.
Maybe we should change the when we do the repair. Maybe we change the next runtime. Maybe.
Oh, you know what? We could actually. Huh. Because see, now that we've moved that process into the digger itself, we can actually say what we want this repair to do.
Right. So it can just set the, you can basically just make it so that it is.
That it works just like that. Right? Because we can do the last dig is equal to span 0.
Just like we do in the beginning.
Yeah.
And that'll start it over. Yes. There you go. Yes. Indeed, Jim. Indeed. That's what we just put in.
So that will cause that. And then where's the empty?
And then that'll cause it to start up right away as well. You won't have to wait that first cycle either. It'll just boom. Just like when you equip.
Oh, you know what? I just noticed that we put the empty operation on the hopper. I think maybe should that be a pass-through? Are we gonna have multiple hoppers?
Not on one digger.
Yeah, so let's do a.
I don't think, anyway. I mean, I guess you could if we started yielding different things besides chips, but they'll just go in something else.
I think it. So Jim was saying the fault message check will not be aligned by time to when the diggers have events. I think the notification will be, but what will happen is that as soon as you empty or repair it, it'll set it to dig immediately.
And then everything will continue on that same timer as it did.
Right. So it'll get them. Then they'll start getting out of. The diggers themselves will be out of sync with each other, but their messages will still be that 15 seconds. Now the only thing is I need to go to this. I need to see where this is being called. Oh, right. Here's the one. Yeah. So this, instead of that, we just make this call. So now, so the change with that should, let's see what happens, because, right, so now if I were to, what's my inventory in this game? Oh, I have very few bolts, so let's go to the store. Typing at a console window, I keep wanting to type in CD. Like, I want to change directory to store.
Because you're changing the rooms?
Yeah. It's like, I don't know why to me it's like...
Every 15 seconds for notification, they cause mismatch digest. Well, it still goes through and checks them. I don't understand. I think it'll be okay.
Yeah. Out of mana. So let me do like an empty on Pete. So now as soon as I hit empty, Pete's now running, but Pete will still run every 15 seconds for its thing, because its timer check and the notifications, notifications with it's checking on its own thing. The way that loop works, right? Because it's basically going through and checking each individual digger on its own information. Because the digger maintains when it was last dug, what's the status of it. So everything should still stay in sequence for itself. What that will show though is that now Pete will complete, and then everything else happens. And then if I do a repair now on John, so now John will run, and then well, Pete just ran. So
That's lame.
yeah.
There you go.
So then those three will go, then John will go, and then there'll be a stop, and there'll be Pete. So it will kind of make it so that they're working. There's different stuff happening all the time versus everything happening in lockstep, right? Because everything would have been happening at the exact same time every time.
Hey, I got a question.
Okay.
If you empty a hopper before it's full, does it cause it to automatically run again so you can kind of gain the 15 seconds?
Oh, yes, it definitely will.
Can't do that. Yeah, so you can totally just game it.
Nice. Consider it gamed. All right. So, well, we can, we could control that. It's nice. It's in one spot. So in the empty, we can say if is full. That's when we'll do that. So only do it when it's full. So we can control that. Yeah, that's right. You can gain the repairs. Well, would we want to? Do we want to do something similar?
Free.
Right, the emptying's free. That's why we wanted to do it. But Jim was saying that we could game the repair. But that does cost you tokens. Whereas gaming the empty isn't so good because that's free. Now you don't. Are you really? You could cause something to force to dig more frequently, so you could get chips faster.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That would be the main problem. Now you could do the same thing with repair if you wanted to, but it's less beneficial.
Yeah, because it costs you something to do it.
Do we want to check it?
Maybe we do.
Or we only do it if it's broken?
Or maybe we should only do it if it skipped one. It'd be neat to be able to throw like a flag in there. Yeah, Jim, emptying was restarting the dig clock, but not anymore.
Well, no, I think the question is, Jim's making a good point. Should it? So what we're actually doing is we're resetting. Well, it does. It says you're saying restarts. I'm thinking resetting. So this doesn't restart the timer. What it does is an empty will set it to dig immediately. So as soon as that loop comes through, it's going to dig, which means as soon as you type in empty, it'll do a dig. In the case, what we've made here is that it'll only do that if the hopper is full. Now, it does give you the benefit that if it's full, that you could type it in real quick and empty it.
Right, and catch an extra dig.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's right. Sort of. If you filled up faster, you could do it. You could get a little out of it.
Yeah, so you can empty whenever you want to. It doesn't make too much of a difference. The main problem was if you wanted to get a ton of chips really quick, you could just sit there and empty the same hopper over and over and over and over again very quickly, because you're obviously going to be able to type faster than 15 seconds. So
right. Well, what I was getting at too is you might be able to do it in such a way that, like, we set something the first time you miss, so we know you've spent the 15 seconds somewhere. Know what I mean? Or no?
No.
Like, if you come through and you can't dig, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll know that you've checked and failed when you come through, so that when we do fix you, we say, hey, have you failed a turn? You have? Okay, go back to 0. If you haven't, oh, we just did it, but you didn't even miss one yet, just pick up where you left off.
I think that's the same thing of what these are doing, right? This
It's not
check.
though. That's saying it's full.
Mm-hmm. Which means that it missed a dig.
Doesn't mean it missed a dig. It just means it's full. If you do it in 5 seconds, you've got an extra dig. In other words, if you did a dig and I saw this time before the message came up that I'm full, I could empty it, right? Like in other words, I see that 100 hit 100 when it does the dig and it reports. I could empty it before the 15 seconds is up and I'll get extra chips. I mean, this comes into play too because we were talking about having an add-on that would make that time faster. Like that was another item we were talking about maybe having.
Yeah. I mean, we could always, instead of doing this, we could just set it to current. Then we need to get this. This context is a pain here. I feel like the little that you're going to get from that is minor.
Yeah.
I think I know what you're getting at, though, right? So we want to be able to say we could do it with. Yes, this is the other version of minor. Dang, nabbit. Do something like this. Oh, I don't want that. Right, do something like this, but then, so down
Right.
here we could then say equals true. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, if this message hasn't been sent out,
and then we can do it up, yeah, and then you don't even really need the and at that point. But I suppose
we do, because the reason for the failure isn't being set.
Oh, that's true. Does it matter? Yes, it does.
Well, you could, if.
Oh, 10-minute warning.
Yeah.
That's a quick one tonight. Fast.
Yeah, I think this will be good. Something just beat. Oh, that's the music. It's like I don't know what the heck that was, but. So if I were to, I gotta go to the store. I gotta. So I'll have the bolts. Minor potato chip minor. Nice, Allison. This is a game about a small, unimportant miner who thinks spuds are rocks. I love it.
I was trying to actually think about like maybe a larger narrative to this whole thing, like why this, like why. I was in the hot tub actually tonight thinking about it. So I was thinking about like, what if there was like a scientist working on like space time and like nanotechnology, and he had some kind of device that he was working on in his house, right? And then he was having a Super Bowl party, and he accidentally dropped the device under the table, and it caused like tens of billions of years of evolution to happen in a micro area right on the buffet table. So during the Super Bowl, the entire span of the civilization happens, and mine and chips is how they build their civilization. And they could branch out, and as you progress through the game, like you could get to the bowl of Doritos and begin Dorito mining. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then open up. Like, so I was thinking like to pull it all together to give it some reason. right? So what do you
Oh
guys
man.
think of that? Is that kind of neat, or is it really stupid?
I think like with Jim's sentiment hits the nail on the head with it. Like I was even thinking like remember the old Apogee games like Duke Nukem and what was the other one? There was another one that they did that was had very similar storylines that were like that. Um, I like that. That's awesome.
Right?
That sounds so
My
great.
best thoughts in the hot tub, but
Uh, yeah, right.
there you go,
Great
right?
brand sponsorship.
Right, and like they could like discover like ridge chips and stuff like that, and they could build better structures, and it'd be awesome. I'm
There'd be
telling you,
like,
and like
oh
and
my goodness, that would
the
be
whole thing could be
awesome.
like dated by like the seconds in the Super Bowl.
Oh my goodness,
Like each second in the Super Bowl would be like 4,000 years or something.
that sounds so funny.
So we'd be in the second quarter age.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, just that is funny. The one of the oh so I wanted to take a few minutes just real quick, Pete, to talk with you about the there was that game that I linked on Slack. Um,
I didn't really look at it. What was up with that?
I don't know why I can't think of the name of it. Let's see. Let me see.
Was it in general?
It may have been either that. It may have been in random. Because I felt like it wasn't a general type discussion. No,
I'll
not
put all my
stream.
pictures up. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Last Oasis.
Yes, Last Oasis. The reason I wanted to bring it up to you is I had wanted to talk to you about it was because remember the game that we had thought about with that was all like building, right? It was basically the whole core game was actually how do you build stuff versus how do you attain stuff. Oh,
Right.
um,
Yeah, the really robust crafting engine, Craft. Is that what
yeah,
we're talking about?
Craft. That's what we called it.
Right.
One of the things that this game did was basically that. I can't. Maybe I can just look it up. But just do.
Yeah, we had the whole concept of like building up like armies and stuff to be able to move your resources to places where you needed to build other stuff. Remember? Like there was all sorts of like
Yeah, and this is exactly that game. That's what the part that was interesting. Now I don't know how. I can't tell how much of their game is really the full crafting piece of it, but it looks like it's a very big piece of it. Oh, we got disconnected here. I don't know. Maybe try stop that. Maybe that killed the connection. Yeah, Jim. It was very steampunky. I think the thing that was neat about it was that like you group up. So the idea is the land masses. The way that they're set up is that they eventually the sun gets to them and burns them up. So you have to kind of keep moving it. So it forces you to have to migrate regularly. But part of that. Oh, sorry about that, everybody. That was pretty loud. Hey, Pete.
hey,
Yeah, I don't know.
Skype crashed on me.
Skype crashed. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, like gone.
Yeah. So so you can't camp exactly, Jim. So what I was just saying is like the whole concept is that the world is in such a way that the sun will burn up the landmass, and so you basically have a strip of land that you can work on, and it keeps moving. Because so you have to kind of constantly be moving, looking for resources, building up your encampment, and like constructing your mobile uh
Okay.
like fortress. And it's like, but part of it is building weapons, building flying stuff, building running stuff, building small running stuff. Like you could build stuff that's more permanent, like a temporary permanent type of thing, like where you build a real quick camp.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if
Just so you know, I can't actually see your screen anymore.
oh, all right, yeah.
It's cool. I mean, I'm watching it on the stream, but I got the delay.
to share it. I don't know why I was. I was trying to find the one that kind of showed it pretty well was. So these things here is you've actually built them. So these items, like, you don't start with this. Like, you start with nothing, and you have to collect resources. Like, you have to collect wood and things like that to build these structures.
Right.
I want to see if they show some of the stuff. I thought the other part that's neat is because these things are giant and running around, the guys actually have like retractable like grappling stuff. So they shoot them up there and they grapple up, and that's how they get up onto the stuff. Right, kind of like Populous. Oh, you brought back memories. That was such a fun game. That reminds me, actually, too. It's like talking about fun old games. It's like there's a game that's come out. It's been out, I guess, for a little while. It's called City Skyline. It's basically like super advanced Sim City. And I was
Oh,
like,
really?
yeah, it's pretty awesome. Yeah, so you can see them like putting the construction together, and they basically drop the weapon down on top of it. And so they're basically building that encampment to get going. But everybody's trying to fight for the same set of resources. So, like, it's kind of like nonstop PvP.
Huh.
And resource collection and building. So it's like you have to like measure all that stuff together.
Right. You'll probably be helped by having a big team, huh?
It does. That's the idea, is that you're kind of. So there's two things that they were saying about the game that they were trying to do. Is it helps to have alliances in the game, because so you want to be able to, because you can trade as well. So they were saying that like the expectation with the way that they've been running the tests right now is that I don't know, Jim. I think it's really all like player on player, but it's like you can rate, like you can attack each other. Like you can see this clip here is the two like fighting against each other. And so they're like riding in, and then they're gonna have to like to battle it out for the area.
That's pretty crazy.
So the goal was that you would have some bigger alliances and like some smaller ones, and the idea is that the bigger alliances would make arrangements with some of the smaller alliances so they wouldn't attack them and stuff like that, and kind of protect them in a certain area. And so you'd kind of trade with them on a regular basis. So the way that you can do it is you build up these complex trading partners and stuff like that, and it's like, so there's a lot of politics that get built into it as well. But I think it's not due to come out until September. But I was like, that seems interesting. My ambulatory land battleship. Jim. Oh, Jim, that's so funny. Yeah, exactly.
I wonder if the building in it is more like Fortnite, where you just kind of drop pieces in, or if it's like a little more elaborate than that. I bet you it's like Fortnite, where there's just like a few different models and you kind of lace them all together.
It seems like there's certain, but you can kind of lay it out completely different. I was trying to see if I could. I think in this video near the end it showed them building. Let me see if. Okay, I don't need that. So here's them building.
So it is like Fortnite. So you kind of attach a piece, you cycle through. This is the one I want, and then after you've like blueprinted it out, then it kind of renders.
Oh, maybe. I haven't done it in Fortnite, so I don't really know.
But I like. So yeah, kind of like Fortnite, Jim just said.
But I liked the idea. The part of it was that you really are responsible for building the stuff and building like your weapons and getting your stuff together and your resources and your trading, but then there was a reason for it, right? Because that was part of the problem that we were having with Craft was like, so we were coming up with some ideas, but I felt like this was a good like concept that they worked on. It made it a very compelling storyline, and it created the ability for alliances and the trades and stuff like that very strong. So I guess what I was thinking about is like, at some point we can go back and still talk about craft as a way to do that. That you can to just keep those things in mind, right? Because that's kind of the alliances and protection and fighting needs to be a piece of it that makes it interesting and dynamic. That was the other part, is the fact that the landmass keeps changing that you're living on is the part that makes another piece of it interesting. That it's just like, okay, so what you were just dealing with is now different, and so you kind of have to keep learning the area that you're in.
Right, right. So it's kind of always fresh.
Yeah,
Well, you'd hope anyway. I mean,
right.
yeah.
I don't know. It was pretty neat. I thought it fit into what we were kind of talking about with craft and like how they some of the stuff that they fixed on it. And I
Yeah.
agree with Jim. I think it's pretty interesting, the duality of the builds and stuff and the resources. It seems like it could be interesting. I was going to sign up for the early access, but I just don't have the time.
I know, right?
I wanted to, but I feel like I couldn't give them enough.
Yeah, we can't even play WoW Classic. We're going to do a new thing.
I know, right? Well, that's the other thing. Oh, WoW Classic comes back out. Oh man.
No, August.
I know.
Damn.
Oh, time to lose my job.
Oh man. All right. Well, it is 8:30, people.
Yes, it is time
So
for us to
we
sign
played
out.
the game a lot tonight. That was good. We fixed some bugs. That was good.
Yeah, we didn't make it as many modifications this time, but I think what we've done has really improved good pieces of it. Jim, thanks so much for joining tonight. We
Yeah, it was great having the flow, the back and forth, and something to kind of jump off of too. So
yeah.
it was cool.
It also helped us re-explain the game that we've been talking about for the last 6 months, and so it's like, oh yeah, this is why we did that. But
Yeah. So I mean, not that we don't appreciate the rest of you too. We definitely do.
yes,
It's just
yes,
cool having people ask code questions. Is all.
it is. And then we'll get this pushed up. All right, sounds good. Well, thank you so much, everybody, and we will catch you again next week.
All right. Good night, all.